Hello crafters and welcome back to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel. My name is Deepa from DeeZinesByD and today I have a beautiful daffodil window card to share with you. So as you can tell, this card has a bunch of products from Lawn Fawn, and today for these darling daffodils I chose to color them in with some Copics. So let's go ahead and look at these products. So I've got the big Scripty Sentiments foil plates there that I'm going to be using. I've got the Darling Daffodils die set, and then I've also got the Secret Garden window set. I'll also be using a couple pattern paper packs. So we've got the What's Sewing On pattern paper pack and then the watercolor set as well. So let's get started. So we've got the Darling Daffodils dies. The first thing you've got to do is either pull apart your dies by bending them, or you can use some wire cutters, which work best for me. I've cut everything out, and then I've also gone ahead and die cut everything from some white cardstock. So let's go over the pieces. You can see that the main large petal piece, you're going to cut two of those. You've got a little buttercup piece there, you cut one. The leaves and the stems, one of each. And then you've got these petals. There's two petals. I cut that twice, so I ended up with 4 petals. You only really need 3. You've got the large flower center, which you've got 1 of, and then the little stems in the center, that's 2. Now you've got this tiny little piece, which could go at the bottom of the buttercup if you wanted a closed flower. And then you've also got these tiny little pieces for the center of the flowers for that open flower, which those 2 pieces I'm not really going to use, but you can if you want to. So let's go ahead and get a design. So what I like to do is go online and find a flower that I like and kind of mimic that. So I found these daffodils, which are some beautiful pink and purple daffodils, and I'm going to go ahead and try and recreate those with this Darling Daffodil set. So I'm using a bunch of Copics. I'm going to list all of the colors that I've used in the top left hand side of the screen. So if you want to know what colors I've used to put these together, those are all listed there. There's also a supply list in the description here, so you can go ahead and find everything you need. So I found the best technique to use with the center flowers, so that main flower that's going to be completely open and looking at you, is to just kind of curve and make flicks around the petal. So you're kind of flicking outwards from the center, first of all, and then you're creating a curve where the petal rounds on, like the left and the right side for each of the 3 petals. And then you're just kind of flicking out from the center, going from the browns to the yellows, and then on the edges we're going to be using the darkest purple to kind of outline the edge. And then to make it look more natural, again, you're going to want those flickies, what I like to call them, the little flicks. They kind of just give it that striated look, the natural look of a flower. And it's important to keep in mind that, as you're doing these flicks, you're also blending the colors. And so you can see I just did a line for the edge. I'm going to come in later on and I'm going to actually flick that upward to continue that striated look and to blend that darker purple into the lighter one that's coming after it. And then the trickier part, which sounds tricky but it actually isn't, is to blend the yellow into the purple. So we're going from a dark purple to a lighter purple to then like a light yellow, which is actually more of a light, like a beigeish color, and then to like a deep yellow. And then you've got all of the browns to create the extra definition in the center of the flower going outwards. So you can see that I still got a lot of white there. I have to fill that in. So I'm going to use EOO to kind of just blend that yellow into the purple. I find when using 2 colors that are very different, using the neutral tones like that EOO is going to work best to kind of blend it in. And then once you've blended with those neutral colors, you can start adding more of your vibrant colors closer to the edge of the other vibrant color. And that just helps everything kind of flow and come together. So you can see I'm kind of working on this a lot. I've gone over with the yellow, the darker yellow again. And then I'm going to go back with the browns in order to just define the flicks that I have coming out from the center. It seems like a lot of work, but it actually isn't, because keep in mind, you're only doing 2 of these. It's not like you're doing a bunch of flowers, and then you've just got 4 petals, or 3 if you're not going to use the 4. So you can see that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the second one. The magic of video. Those are both done. And then we'll go ahead and do the little flower petals. Now, I'm going to show you them here in a quick way, so I'm just going to speed that up. But it's essentially the exact same thing that I did for the, the 3 petal pieces there. So this time I've started with the purple to get that outline kind of done, and then I'm going to come in with the browns and the yellows, and then I'm going to mix with the EOO and then add a bit more definition, and that's pretty much the gist. Now, the only difference I would say is that instead of, rounding out on the left and the right side of the petal so that your eye kind of rounds and goes to the center of the petal, we're now going to kind of just do our lines kind of all curving. Right? Because these petals are going to be curving downwards from that little buttercup is what I like to call it, the little buttercup center of the flower. Okay, so now that all the petals are done, let's go ahead and move on to that little buttercup piece I like to keep talking about, and then that other center piece. So these are going to be darker and they're going to be more brown and yellow. So I'm adding a darker brown, the E29, to the edges. It's not only going to go around the edges on that buttercup piece, it's going to go around that portion that creates like that center circle, and then at the very bottom where it's going to be coming out from the center of the flower. Then I'm just going to come with a lighter brown to kind of blend out the darker brown. Again, I'm still using that flick technique here because, flowers, especially the daffodil, you'll notice it has all of these lines and striations in it. So this is very important for giving it that semi-realistic look. So once my browns are all down, I'll go ahead and I'll add more of the yellow here. Now the yellow is where you're really going to see it coming together. And the yellow also blends out some of the brown, right? So once that blending occurs, you want to define that brown again. So I'm coming back in with the brown to add those flicks, darken the yellow a bit, and also create that definition in there. So again, this takes a bit of time, but it's just 2 little pieces that are going to be at the center of those 2 flowers. When it comes to Copic coloring, whether you have the any of the Copic markers, the original, the Chows like I do, it's all about layers and detail. So it's important to use like a thicker cardstock so that you're not going to be wetting the cardstock so much that, it's too flimsy to put together. So you can see I have all of my pieces now. I like to kind of just position them to kind of see how it's going to look and see if it looks good, and then I know whether I can continue. So now we have the little flower centers. Now these are the easiest. I'm just using the darkest brown here to kind of color these in. Just make sure you've got all the white, and those are done. I had a little bit of white showing there. I think I went over it after. And then for the leaves, we're going to be using G99 and BG93. Now, these are beautiful colors for a muted green tone. I absolutely love them for that. If you wanted more of a vibrant green, you might want to go with more of the other BG colors there. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and just color the entire stem with the lighter color, and then I'm going to bring in the darker color just to create some depth and some shadow on the stems. At the end of the day, the stems are not too important because some of them are going to get covered. The leaves, I think, are really important here. So I've gone ahead and I've added the lightest color. Then again, I'm going to do that flicking motion just from the top points of those leaf glades, and then also from the bottom edges, and then I'm just going to darken the bottom completely so you can see that it has a little bit of variation, and it gives it depth. It's got those striations that these leaves will most likely have. Now moving on, I'm going to do some shaping. So I've got my Spellbinders tool-in-one here with the stylus end tip. It's the I think it's the medium ball here, and all I'm doing is I'm just rounding out these petals. Now it's not, to me it makes a huge difference. You can see there's a little bit of depth there. You can see the shape in the petal compared to the flat one. You don't have to do this, but I think it makes a bit of a difference, especially because we're going to have these flowers coming through a frame, and they're going to have like a 3D element to them. So I really thought that the shaping of the petals and things would really help it kind of stand out a little more. Again, it's a simple little step. It adds maybe like 5 minutes extra to your crafting experience, but it makes a difference. And all of these little details are those things that make your card pop and stand out amongst others. So I like to show you all these little tricks that I do because they really, really do kind of step up your card making a little bit. So I've basically just done some simple shaping of the petals around the edges in the center. I've shaped the little anthers in the center and the leaves as well. So now I'm assembling my flower. You can see I've put those 3 petal pieces together. I've added a foam square in the center there because this is, again, because we shaped those petals, you're going to want that center of the flower to kind of lift off of it a bit, so the foam square comes in handy. I've added the little anthers to the center portion of the flower there, and I'm going to attach this with the foam, and that just, looks absolutely gorgeous. You can see I kind of shaped it just a little as I learned. It's called zhuzhing a bit to kind of give it that bit of crinkly, realistic type look. So now for the sideways flower. I don't know exactly what you call it, but that's what I'm calling it. I'm kind of positioning those 4 petals. Now you could use 3. The consensus is to use 3, but I colored 4, so I'm using all 4. I'm adding a bit of foam to the back of that buttercup. I added it hanging over the edge. I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm going to end up cutting that off, and then I'm going to place it on top of those petals in the way that I'd want them to sit behind that buttercup or center of the flower. So here's where I realized I need to cut this off. I can't really attach it like that. And I've just kind of, I've added it on there. Now you can see it looks a little weird. I kind of want that buttercup to stick out a little more from the petals. So I'm just going to remove the petals. Nothing is permanent here. Like I just attached it gently. And you can see I'm still not happy. I'm going to take this off. And what I'm going to do is those 2 bottom, like those 2 center petals, I'm going to have them sticking down a little bit more. This way, it looks like that the flower center is sticking out a little more, and that just looks a little nicer to me. So now I'm grabbing my pattern paper. I've got this nice bluey aqua color from the watercolor paper. And from the What's Sewing On paper, I'm going to grab this. This got a bunch of cute little flowers in the background, and it's a gray tone, so it's got more of a neutral tone to it for the center. Now, I've cut this down to size. It's just a little bit smaller than an A2 sized card panel, and I'm positioning just the arch from that Secret Garden window set to cut out the window here. And you can see that it's not in the center. I've left space at the bottom, and that's where I'm going to foil my sentiment. So now I've also cut the floral paper there to be just a little bit bigger than the arch so it shows through. I'm grabbing the big Scripty sentiment set, and I'm cutting off the bottom sentiment which says big hugs. I'm going to basically align this here at the bottom of my arch. And I'm going to foil this with some polished brass foil. So the polished brass is it has a little bit more of a yellow tone like the yellow in the daffodils, which is why I chose this over the plain gold. I like to use the hinge method here. And the hinge method is basically where you position your sentiment or your foil plate. You add some tape, some washi tape, some low-tack tape, and then what you're going to do is you're going to lift it a little bit and insert your foil. You can lift it a little bit, or, if you have pieces that come up a little higher like I do in the sentiment, you can lift it completely and then just fold it flat. That way it's still positioned where you'd like it because it's harder to see through the foil. And then you just cut off all the excess foil and put it through your foiling machine. So I've got my glimmer system here. I've got a red and a green light saying that it's ready, so I've heated it up already. I put down my piece here with the plate against the machine, and I've hit the timer button. I've put on my spacer pad and the shim. I like to put that on while it's heating because it adds just a little bit of pressure while it's heating to foil it perfectly. And you can see that came out nicely. Now I didn't show where I put it through my die cutting machine, but you do once that timer stops flashing. Once that timer light stops flashing, put it through your die cutting machine slowly one way. I don't go back and forth because then you can get double foiling. And that's how I end up with the results I get. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've attached that floral piece or pattern paper to my card base, which is an A2 size card base, white card base. And then I've added some foam tape to that arch, the paper with the arch and the sentiment. I have put it all around. I've removed the backing from only the left, the right, and the top. So you can see the bottom I can still fold up and stick in my stems. So this is the method that I like to use when I'm having something coming out from the bottom. I'll add my frame or whatever it may be in sections so that not everything is glued down, and then I can just slide things in and eventually attach everything. And so all I've done here is I've positioned that stem. I haven't glued it down yet. And then I've used a foam square to adhere the flower portion. Now I'm just going to kind of go back over and add a little bit of liquid glue just to stick down that stem. And you can see it's a little finicky, but much easier than trying to place everything and then, replace everything. This I find is the easier method. So now I put this stem down because it's a little lower down. It's easier for me to just glue it down first, cut off the extra piece, and then attach that other flower with some more foam squares. So I'll attach that here. Now you can see that it nicely pops off that page. Even the leaves, because I shaped the leaves, it nicely curves up from the bottom and onto the frame here. So I'm having it hanging on that side of the frame. It nicely does that. It works perfectly now with all that shaping. So now I can glue down those leaves, and once I've positioned them exactly where I want them, then I can cut off anything that's overhanging. In this case, it's not. And then I just have to remove the backing from the bottom portion here and attach it. And you can see that turned out beautifully. Now I've got some of these amethyst glitter drops from PINKFRESH Studio. I thought they matched nicely with the purple on the flower. So I'm going ahead and I'm adding some of those inside the frame, on the edge, just kind of all over, just for a little bit of interest. And once I've got that done, that's pretty much my card for you today. So I hope you guys have been inspired to create something similar yourself. The darling daffodils and the big Scripty Hugs foil plates and everything else in this video are available in the ScrapbookPal store. You can go ahead and click on the links below in order to shop. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.